In this video, I'm going to show you how you can modify the fields in any module inside of Zoho CRM. This training video will cover everything from the leads module, prospects, companies, contacts, activities, right through to custom modules inside your system. So for instance, in here, we have a contact called Maggie Simpson. And obviously, if we select on that, we have some fields under her contact in here, which we can obviously rename, delete, modify, and we can even create custom fields as well in here. To do this, you go up to the top right-hand corner to settings, and then we go down to modules and fields under customization. And then you're going to scroll through this list and find the field that you want to, the module that you want to update, in this instance, contacts. We're going to select on the profile. Now, in most cases, you'll probably just have one profile. If you've got many profiles, then you should already understand how the different profiles work. And then you'll see a screen like this. Now, you would have noticed at the top here, there's a contact image. Now, when I showed you Maggie Simpson before, we had a picture of Maggie Simpson. That's because we're able to add an image against her. And we can actually turn that image off completely for all contacts if it is not required by your organization. And you can just toggle it back on there, which is pretty cool. Then down here, we have the layout. So this is exactly how it's going to be laid out to the user when they're looking at it and also editing the screen. So if we want last name to be under the first name, we grab it and drag it and then release the mouse button, and we can move it under the first name field, and then all of these other ones will just pop back up. So you can do that if you need to, or you can move it over there. You can move age around if you want to, and we can relocate age elsewhere on this screen and then drop it down there if we need to as well. So moving fields around is very simple. On the left-hand side, you can create new fields based on the type of field that you need to use in order to be able to enter your data or view your data. Phone fields are great because on mobile devices and on the computer with a VoIP system connected, it will have a call to action button. Basically, you'll be able to click the button and it will make the phone call, etc. We have single line text entries, which are just bland entries that you can enter. It's maxed out at 256 characters, but then you've got multi-line entries, which allows you to enter multiple lines of data in there in one set. We have date fields, and then we have date and time fields in here. You got number fields, and then we've got automatic generated numbers. And when you do automatic generated numbers, these are pretty cool. You can actually assign a prefix. Then you can select when do you want the number to start from the very first record, and then is there going to be a suffix? So I can basically just say, JG is the prefix, and then the suffix will be like record, like A or something. And you can see here that we'll start counting up, or we can say, no, we want you to start from 1,000. So the first record will start from that, and then it will count up incrementals from there, okay? We have URL fields in here, which you can obviously put onto the screen, checkboxes, percentage boxes, lookup fields. So lookup fields are an interesting one. So if we bring a lookup field onto the screen here, we can call the field a certain name. So in this instance, you might say I want to relate it to, say companies. Okay, and then the lookup module. So it's going to look up companies. Okay, and then this thing called a related list title. So you might be wondering what that is, and I'm going to go in and actually show you what that means. Without exiting out of that, we'll go in here and I'll show you what that means. So if we go back to Maggie Simpson under the contacts, for instance, on the left-hand side, you have this thing called a related list. So what this is going to do now is essentially we're going to create this related list against the company's profile, and then we're going to be able to call this something in here, okay? In this instance, it's going to be called contacts. Now, the system already has this functionality built into it, so this doesn't really mean anything to us. We don't even have to do this because it's by default. But you might have something like, jobs, or you might have, incident reports or logging of, fees or charges or something like that. And so you can call that, fees. Okay, and then the field could be obviously still called the contact field or the company field, and then this is just going to be the module in which the fields are the fees are related to, and you can customize that module. So that related list title will show on this left-hand side, and then however many records are created under that account will show how many number ones will be on the left-hand side. So you can do cool things like that. You have an individual file upload button in here, which allows you to upload individual files. However, just be mindful that that is a completely different option to the attachments inside of the native Zoho system. So under Maggie Simpson, we have the attachments here. They're completely separate to that actual field. We also have a thing called a subform. Subforms are really cool if you have to keep consistently entering information in. I'm actually going to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to save that. And I'm going to just put in a couple of fields in here for you. So I'm just going to put a single line text. I'm going to put a phone number in, and then we're going to put in, say, a pick list with option 1, option 2. And then we're just going to click save. So a subform is really cool. If I refresh Maggie's page now, I'm going to scroll down to where that subform is, and this is the subform. So this is how it's going to display. Now, I haven't named any of these fields, demo purposes only. But if I edit Maggie's record and I got to go into this contact, I can actually enter in some information in here. I can put a phone number in there, and then I can say, yeah, option 1. I can add a new row, and I can enter more information, another person's phone number. I can enter in option 2, and I can just keep going for days. So the subform is really good. Please be mindful with subforms. They are very user-friendly and they look brilliant on the screen, just like I've demoed. The only downside to subforms is that reporting on Zoho's system for a subform is very awkward. It will only print as it's displayed on that edit screen. There is no other native reporting inside of Zoho currently in 2019 that allows you to pull out individual fields based on that. The last but not least on here is the new section. So you can just basically create these sections where like the fields are cordoned off. So if I go back to Maggie's system, you'll see contact information. We go down, then there's subform, then there's an address, then there's description information, visit summary, etc. You can create your own sections and section everything off as you need to. So that's how you can add in new fields. So something to be mindful of in Zoho is there is this thing in here where when you delete a field, the field actually doesn't get deleted permanently. It will get saved on the left-hand side in the unused items. So you're going to need to be mindful that if you ever delete a field, it's probably going to still be in the module, but just it's moved over here into this little list over here. And you can go in here and delete them by simply pressing the delete button and then saying, yes, delete now. So you can get rid of them if you need to. Please be mindful that there are some defaulted fields inside of Zoho that cannot be deleted. For instance, exchange rate on this one. I actually hover my mouse over this and it says field cannot be deleted. So you won't be able to delete these ones, but they will just stay over here in the unused icon section. So next thing on the list I want to show you now that we've gone through all of that is, cool, we have the fields on here, but how do we like edit the field itself? Well, there's these little triple dots on the right-hand side called settings on every field, and you'll be able to select that. Now, please be mindful that based on the field that you're clicking on this, these options will keep changing based on the field. So some of these options will only be available based on the field type. So here's a drop-down menu, for instance, called status. So what we're going to do is we've got a drop-down menu and you can select from multiple values from that drop-down menu, right? So if we go in here and we can click on status and we've got status, active, inactive, or archived. So if we go in here, we can go into status and we can select the edit properties button and we can change active, inactive, archived. We can create another one. We can create another one and we can just keep going. There is, I believe, a limit of 250 options for a drop-down menu, I believe, from Zoho's policy at the moment, but that's as of 2019. So a lot of options in there. Once you get past, I believe it's 20, it'll turn into a contextual field box. So if I was to click on status right now and there was 20 in here, what would actually happen is it would allow me to start contextually typing immediately on the keyboard so that I can instantly filter for what I was looking for. That is not a feature you can turn on. It'll just come on by default. Also, if, for instance, you've got 20 or 30 of these things and you've got to keep adding these fields from another system, you can actually add them in bulk. So you can click this add options and you can do from predefined choices, from unused values, or you can do this thing called manual entry. Manual entry is probably going to be the main way. And so you can go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Okay. And so then that way you can actually go through here and create, your different line items. So each line is representing a different value in this case. And so you can just copy and paste that from, say, like Word documents or anything like that, and then just click Add Choices, and it will pre-populate all of this, because sometimes clicking the plus button, and then typing in a 1, and then typing in a 2, and then typing in a 3, it's a little bit mundane, and it might take you a little bit of time to do that, but you can do that. For instance, I just deleted one of those fields. So if you click on the unused fields trash icon, I'll be able to bring that one back now. So archived was one of the main ones that I deleted there, which was saved previously before doing this video. I can select that and I can say add, and it will bring it back into it. So once again, this is just like what I showed you before on the left. If you've actually deleted a value in here, it won't delete. And the reason why is because you need to be able to keep that historical data on your old records for reporting purposes down the path. So try not to get into a habit of clicking unused icons and then actually forcefully deleting them, because you might break your reporting in the future. So just be very mindful of that. You can select default values on these through this option. So whichever one's always going to be defaulted when creating a new record. You can enable history tracking for Picklist values, which is in a report, and that'll tell you, how many records have this option ticked, etc. You can display the values alphabetically instead of the order entered. So it's very fascinating. If you do what I did before, I went, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The system doesn't actually understand if that's alphabetically or not. So in instances like when you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you actually don't want to tick this box because you've put them in the right order. So just leave it in the order that you've represented. But if you've got, say, like 20 or 30 items in there and they all range from A, B, C, D, E, F, G as the starting letter in the actual option, then you may want to tick that box so it's a little bit more easier for your staff to kind of sift through and find the value that they're looking for. If you need the field to be required, you can tick the required box, although the required box will not be able to be ticked in this instance because we have a default value of active selected. If I select it back to none, then we can turn it on and actually set it. I do actually have to click done and then go back out and then come back in, but you will need to make sure that there is no default value, because if there's a default value, then it means that the field's been entered, if that makes sense. Show tooltip. Show tooltip's pretty cool. When you're actually on this screen in here, hopefully we've got one in here. If not, I will create one. No, we don't. Basically, you can create a tooltip. So I'm going to say if contact is active. If I can spell right, there we go. Click done, and I'll click save. So if I now go back and I reload Maggie Simpson's system, and I go down to that status field here, and we want to go in here and edit the actual field itself. Actually, here we go. We do have one, and yeah, there it is there. So we got two. We got actually this. So Zoho does two of them. If I go back in and edit that for you, and I'll show you the two different versions that they do. So you have this first one here, which is called an info icon, which is available on the drop-down list only. But in other ones, you can actually make it that it's the field value. And so hence there will be this here. Basically, this icon will probably show, and then this field will automatically have a defaulted value set in here, but it will be grayed out. So a little bit like this membership and date of birth here where it says DD, month, YY, it looks exactly like that. But as soon as I click on that field, it will disappear on like a single line text. But in the event that you use the one that I just used, which is the little info one, if you just hover your mouse over this here, this little eye, it says if contact is active. But remember, you've only got 128 characters to use, so you have to be a little bit short, sharp, and shiny on that show tooltip function there. I think that's pretty well it. Email fields will have a verification on them as to whether or not there is an @ symbol and there is a .com or a .au or a .org at the end of it. So they'll be pretty defined when you go to actually use them. There's no other real crazy formulas or fields in here that you can really edit, but they're the main ones, and just have a play with it and see how you go. Thanks for watching the video.